Assalamu alaikum, everyone who's there. I can't see anyone, but hopefully people are there. So, a couple of things, okay, before I start this one. You may hear the little ones because for some reason today, it, actually all of Ramadan, as my energy level got weaker and weaker, theirs got more and more. So it seems like they're in the noise making mood. So that's one thing you may hear the little ones. And then I'm in the den, so I got my teen over here clicking away to his keyboard, and he got his earbuds in, listening to his friends and stuff, so he cannot hear me when I tell him to be quiet. So, inshallah, hopefully, be patient with me. I've not been on for a long time. I think the last time I did a live was when I was in DC, and I was heading back up with my sick husband and kids after that arduous trip and the convention and all that stuff. And I really been trying to get into Ramadan. It's been good. It's had its points. Every time it seems like I'm getting into it, something else happens to kind of like pull me back out. So it's kind of like that Scarface thing. Every time I get, I don't know, was it the Godfather? Like every time I'm out, I think I'm out, they pull me back in. So I'm getting pulled back in always to some stuff. I had some good times, alhamdulillah. And I kind of wanted to talk about something. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I don't know because this is something that hits me quite emotionally. So I may not be as brief as I would like to be. And, sometimes I feel like a little positive. Every time I start to feel a little positive about how it is Muslims can interact with each other and do interact with each other, something else happens. I mean, in the United States and probably globally, but I'm just going to really kind of center the United States because that's where I am. That's where I'm from, African American. The Muslim population is very, very diverse. Assalamu alaikum, Rachel. How you doing? It's very diverse, and alhamdulillah, it's full of people from an expansive backgrounds. People are native born here. People who are immigrants came here, people and their descendants, okay, so people's parents who are immigrant, and people who come from an extensive Muslim background, and people for whom their Muslim heritage has been cut short and they're rediscovering it, and some for whom it's completely new. And so, as I'm a convert. My father was Muslim, but long story. I don't tell my origin story. My friends know it. And I went into this religion and this deen and this faith with two things, anticipating two things. First of all, developing a connection with my Creator, and in a way that would be pleasing to Him. So developing a connection with Allah. I also had this idea of a sense of fellowship, okay, that, I now become a part of a brotherhood and sisterhood of billions. That's not like on Surat. And, they would embrace me with open arms and everything like that. And initially I got that. Alhamdulillah, I'm African American, and my exposure to Islam was through an African American Muslim community. And so when I became Muslim, I was isolated from my father. Like, he lived all the way in Brooklyn and I lived on Long Island. And so he said, well, you have to find some Muslims out here. And alhamdulillah, the Muslims I found out here were African American Muslims, a great, great bunch of Muslims, and I got connected with a Muslim family that I'm still close to this day. They actually did take me into their arms and their embrace. Tajmullah Abdul Jalil and Ishra Abdul Jalil. And I learned the faith, and I learned, and I got a whole crop of sisters and brothers that I connected with. And, I really felt that sense of fellowship. And, my first Ramadan was awesome. My next Ramadan was awesome. My first Eid was awesome. My next Eid was awesome. It was wonderful. And then I got married, and I kind of was brought out of that fold of African American Muslimness, and I ended up in a community where the majority of Muslims were immigrants. And it was a stark difference and a culture shock. And I, since that time, have been felt a sense of loneliness and alienation, except for a few times when I actually met new Muslims and connected with them, and they ended up kind of moving away and everything like that. And so it's always been a struggle for me. It's always been a struggle to actually have a connection with Muslims. And here in my Muslim community that I'm in right now, it's actually the worst it's ever been. And I always sorely miss those times when I was first Muslim and I was enveloped in this brotherhood and sisterhood. I mean, it had its issues, but I knew that I belonged. I felt like I belonged as a Muslim. I felt like I was a part of something, and I missed that greatly. And one of the things that I did was I just recently covered this group called Embrace. It's the IGNA project, the Islamic Circle of North America, and it was created by two Muslim converts, Nahila Morales and Kenneth Masirullah. I can't that's his last name. And one of the things that they do is they center converts because it can be so lonely and it can be so alienating. I didn't get that experience until afterwards when I got married, but I cannot imagine being being a new Muslim and then feeling the way that I feel right now. I don't, and at certain points in my life where I don't know how I would have been able to keep my faith and keep my deen. So I think what they're doing is very, very important. It's very important for us to understand, the experience of converts, which can be very, very lonely, very, very alienating. And so I posted the article that I did, and I got this response from someone that was from a Muslim, an extensive Muslim background. So they were born Muslim, and their parents are Muslim, and they're immigrants to this country. And I'm trying my best, okay, to be as diplomatic as about this as possible. And the person, I've always had a positive interaction with this person on social media. But the person was very condescending. The person was just like, well, we get into, it's no problem in getting into our own cliques and speaking our own language. We must preserve the Muslim languages, and converts need to understand that. It hit me really hard. It hit me really hard for two reasons. Because first of all, I felt like, well, God, really, is this divide that we create for ourselves as Muslims? Is this something that's completely unbreachable? I mean, is it really that hard to respect someone that is outside of your cultural experience, to expect their stance and where they're coming from? Is it really so hard to understand that when your Muslim brother or sister is saying, listen, this behavior hurts me, for you to just kind of back up and say, you know what, maybe we need to kind of reassess it instead of defending it? And what the person was defending is this thing that happens quite often. And again, I didn't experience it until after I got married, and it's horrible. All right. And it's this whole situation where you are a part of a group of Muslims where you are a large portion of them are from one background. Okay. And so when those people decide that, they're going to sit back and they're going to be comfortable, that word is used quite a bit, okay, when defending this behavior, and they're going to talk in their language. And you're sitting there, by yourself, and they're talking in their language. Oftentimes, okay, it's not as innocent as that, because oftentimes they look at you like, what are you doing here? And like you have three heads, okay? So they're comfortable, but you're not. You're not comfortable, all right? And this is completely un-Islamic behavior. This is something that the Prophet ﷺ talked about. And so you find yourself in that situation. It could be a community iftar where Muslims get together in a space to break fast. It could be at Eid, the celebration at the end of Ramadan and at the end of Hajj. It could be after Juma, when some people are getting together and stuff like that, you find yourself by yourself. And not only by yourself, but feeling that achingness and that loneliness a whole lot. And it's not my experience, so I can't speak for immigrants, but I would think that you coming to this country and being by yourself, that you would understand that loneliness. So if you see someone that's experiencing that loneliness, you would reach out to them. And inherently, it's really hard to get that kind of empathy and sympathy. And so when Muslims create these spaces where it's just like, listen, we're going to center this group of people. We're going to center people who, guess what? When you convert to this faith, all right, you're by yourself a lot of times, okay? Converts, they embrace this faith and this deen. And guess what? A lot of times their family members don't understand what they're doing. A lot of times their family members cut them off, if not worse. A lot of times they're by themselves as they enter into this faith. And they come in hoping not only for a connection to Allah, but a connection to his worshipers as well, because they don't have anything else outside of that. And so if they encounter a group of rude, insensitive people in his house who decide to treat them like an oddity, to treat them like someone or something that doesn't belong, that hits straight to a heart that's already being affected by alienation from their family and from their friends. Okay? And so when you do that, so when you do that, you're really hurting your Muslim brother and sister. And guess what? That's not defendable. It's not defendable at all. And time and again, I see that and I just want to yell at the rooftops. And I have, actually. Because it is so spiritually and emotionally traumatic to go through that. You've ventured into this big, huge change in your life. And there's no one there to support you while you're venturing into that change. Celebrations that are communal celebrations, you find yourself alone and lonely. And that is unacceptable. You know, the Prophet ﷺ talked about the heart, and if there's a part of the disease, a part of the heart is diseased or hurt, then the whole heart is hurt. If there are people in this ummah that are hurting, then we should be hurting with them. And if we can affect a change to make it more, to alleviate that hurt as much as possible, then we should do that. We shouldn't defend it, and we shouldn't just dismiss it. And, you know, honestly, this whole thought of, well, we get into our cliques. We're supposed to be an ummah. We're supposed to be a community. And, you know, I know the issues, the challenges that can entail because of all the cultural differences that we have. I know that they exist, but guess what? We're supposed to be working our way through that. We're not supposed to be like, okay, well, let's get into these little cliques and like just look off to the side at people, and they get mad when they decide to do their own thing. It's the same thing with Black Iftar. You know, it didn't happen in a bubble. It didn't happen because Black Muslims feel like, well, we don't need to be dealing with these people. No, that is a result of decades of experiencing bad behavior. Okay, anti-Blackness, racial microaggressions, where you can't sit and you feel like you can't have any peace in these spaces because time and again someone's going to say something to you and you just don't have any peace. And so then what do? You end up being alienated and you end up avoiding these spaces and these situations. So what's happening with this behavior and this inability or this lack of desire to change it and make it more in accordance with the example of our Prophet ﷺ and his companions, okay, when the Muhajirin went to Medina and the Prophet ﷺ teamed up a Muhajir with an Ansar, and that's what they did. They helped each other out because here were people that were coming from their homeland and they're coming to a new land. And that's a very daunting thing to happen. And so they embraced each other. Yeah, they had their challenges, but they knew off the bat, at least we need to embrace each other initially. And then now let's work through those challenges that we have. But that's not what we do anymore. We seem to think that we can just go off into these little enclaves and that's okay. Okay? It's not okay. It's not okay when you do it. And then it's not okay when you turn around and you expect people who you've alienated all this time to all of a sudden have your back, because they're not going to have your back. And I suggest that they don't have your back, honestly. So how about this? I had one situation where there was this Muslim sister, okay, and didn't speak a lick of English. Older woman, okay, and didn't speak a lick of English. And I did not, at the time, speak a lick of Urdu, and I never spoke enough Urdu to be able to communicate with her. That's about it, okay? But, this woman came at a time in my life where I had been beat down by Desi women. Horribly. Horrible, horrible behavior, okay? They talked about my blackness. I went to one place, they talked about my hair. I went to another place, and I was sitting with a friend once, and she's white. And so the woman said, "Is this your maid?" Pointing to me. Like, first of all, I wasn't even there, okay? So, terrible behavior. So when I looked at this woman and she looked at me, I just was like, oh, God. Here we go again. What time is it? When do I get to leave? Okay. And she put the biggest smile on her face and she started talking Urdu to me and doing all these hand signals. And I didn't understand her. So I started doing all hand signals. And guess what? For 20 years, no, as a matter of fact, over 20 years, because my oldest is going on 21. So I have to say for 22 years, every time I see this woman, it's Assalamu alaikum and hand signals. Assalamu alaikum hand signals. Once in a while, we could pull someone to translate, okay? And then they leave. They've had enough of us. And then it's back to hand signals again. Because the thing that, don't start Nabil. Assalamu alaikum. Nabil, behave yourself. Okay, so because in the end, we knew, okay, this is my Muslim sister. And so we tried to communicate the best way that we possibly could. And it was always hand signals. But guess what? Those hand signals fill my heart every time I see her. Every time I see her, I have a smile on my face. Because this sister tries and we try to communicate and connect with each other. So there's no excuse for it. I said to behave yourself, Naveel. There's no excuse at all for it. And so to make that connection with each other. And we know, we should know this. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ acted. This is the way the companions acted, who, by the way, were converts. So that's a whole other thing. So there's absolutely no excuse for it. And I have to say, honestly, there's two groups of people, two groups that I've been among, okay, where I go in and I don't feel that way. I don't feel that alienation or anything like that. First of all, African Americans, okay, and I know, again, challenges, but I'm just talking about my experience. I can go into different places and not feel that way. And whenever I go to a Turkish masjid, okay, if they do not speak English, there's usually always someone that speaks some English. But I've been in a situation where the sisters around me did not speak English, okay? They at least had the courtesy to say, Assalamu alaikum, I don't speak English. You know? And then it goes into hand signals like that. But I'm never sitting there off by myself. Never, you should never see anyone off by themselves, okay? And if they're off by themselves, just imagine how that may feel, unless they want to be alone. But give them the opportunity to say to you, well, I'd rather just kind of like sit by myself. I'm okay. I'm good. All right. But other than that, it's like, how do you let your Muslim brothers and sisters to kind of sit off by themselves, to themselves, alone, and then take all of that back home with them? You should not allow that to happen. You should not let language be a barrier to it, or anything or anything else to it. I have severe social anxiety. And when I'm in a place where I don't know people, I can't stand small talk. It drives me crazy or anything like that. But I will actually engage, and people know it. I have my friends up there, Tara and Hamida. You guys know me. You know how I get. But if I see someone by themselves, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a thing that makes me very, very uncomfortable. And I have physiological changes because of, so that they don't feel uncomfortable. Because I know how that feels. I know how lonely and alienating that feels. And I don't want anybody going through that. So how about that? How about when we go to iftar, if we go to a community iftar or something like that, and we see someone that's new to the community, we see someone that we haven't seen before, that we sit down and we talk to them. And if they want to be by themselves, hey, that's cool. But a lot of times they don't want to be by themselves. So I'm like, your hair is a mess. Go away. Rude. So how about we do that, inshallah? We try to do that. Do I speak English very well? Okay. And so that's Nabil Abdul-Rashid. He's trying to act up on my live, and I'm going to pay you back for it too. And so how about we do that? When we try to do that. And I know sisters that do that. And at one point, I had gotten to the point I was like, I don't know why they're doing that, because the only thing they're going to get is this and this and that and that. But now I see I understand why they do that, because it is very, very damaging when someone is feeling alienated. And then what does it do for their deen and for their faith and for their heart? Because, we have the muamalat. We have our interactions with each other. Allah talks about that. It talks about us being brothers and sisters to each other. So how about we continue to do that and be a source of peace and positivity during this month, okay? Now, I have to get to these little ones because I told them to be quiet. And I had a good run, right? But now here they go. Inshallah, they're in a cleaning mood because we're having people over tomorrow. Inshallah. So remember, you see someone off by themselves, at least give salams and talk to them. Okay, if they want to be by themselves, that's cool. If not, you at least will you can have an opportunity of a positive interaction with them, inshallah. I hope everyone, I think this is the 17th day of Ramadan. I'll try to be on again, inshallah, but I hope that everyone's having a really, really good Ramadan. Shout out to all of my Muslim brothers and sisters who are struggling with mental illness and emotion and mood disorders this Ramadan. I know how hard it can be. I have a mood disorder myself. And inshallah, hopefully the challenges are ones that you can overcome, and then you get some positivity in it. I know sometimes it feels like there's nothing positive in it, especially when your Muslims and brothers and sisters are acting up and acting out of pocket. Okay, but inshallah, hopefully you'll find some in it, and you'll find people who will help you find that positivity in it. And check out Yaqeen Institute. Omar Suleiman has some great talks going on at night on Facebook. Yasir Burgess has this great talk that he does every single night. And also, I think Omar Suleiman he's been doing it every single night as well. So, sometimes those help, sometimes they don't help. Sometimes it's okay to be like, if you know someone that is dealing with any kind of mental illness or mood disorder, check up on them. Okay, see how they're doing. And guess what? If they're smiling, they're happy like this, it doesn't mean they're not falling apart inside. Okay, so really ask them and be prepared to listen if they want to talk to you, inshallah. All right? Inshallah, everyone, have a great iftar. Assalamu alaikum.